May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable unto you, O Lord. So, in trying to figure out what exactly I was going to say about this narrative of the virgin birth, an image came to mind. It wasn't a prophetic image. It was of an insurance commercial. You know those commercials where they start off and you have a person who's like on a bike and their dad or their mom's like holding onto them with their training wheels, and then the training wheels come off and they're pedaling for themselves a little bit. You flash forward to the future and they're on like a space shuttle and it's blasting into space and the booster rockets are coming off and it's like, look what you can achieve with State Farm. Well, that's kind of the image that I got when I thought about this passage and about how God approaches Mary and says, hey, you're going to have this child who's going to do great things. You are the booster rockets of Christ. And honestly, I don't think that Mary gets enough credit for that. I don't think that when we think about the type of love that Jesus shared with the world, we often think about where that love was nurtured or where that love was raised. Because let's face it, there's a big gap in the history of our our biography of Jesus. And we don't really know much about what that growing up experience is like. But we do see his family in his life. We see his brother James, who by all accounts loved him like crazy and continued his work even after he died. And we see that his mom, Mary, and their family often followed Jesus around in his ministry and would scold him from time to time when he said off-the-cuff things like, you're all my family, they're not my family. And maybe that speaks a little bit too much about family dynamics, right? But what I really do see when I examine Jesus' family is a place where Jesus was loved and supported. And I think that the type of love that he shared with the world, in a lot of ways, must have come from that. And it wasn't just Jesus' family who were likely responsible for this love that was nurtured and let loose within the world. I do think that God played an important role in that. I think that it's important for us to know that, this family must have been blessed with love. We're talking about, this is the fourth Sunday of Advent. We're talking about how love can change the world, how Jesus' gift of love allows us to change the world. Well, it's important for us to make those spaces of love where we can commit ourselves to transforming people into the type of change makers that the world needs. Jesus was supported by Mary. Jesus was supported by Joseph. Jesus was supported by his brothers. Jesus was supported by, we're told, John the Baptist, Elizabeth, their friends, their community, except for when he gave that sermon in Nazareth and they kicked him out of town. Jesus must have had a tremendous amount of love around him growing up to allow him to go out and share with the world the type of radical, transformative love that he did. I think that love comes from there somewhere. That love grows from somewhere, and that love isn't just given to us directly from God. Too often, I think, we look at the story of Jesus' birth and we think, well, God showed up to Mary and all the love God just sort of implanted in there and didn't leave any of that work to other people. But I don't think that that's the way in which love works within the world. And I think that as we struggle to bring love within the world, we realize more and more that we rely upon other people in order for love to be made real. The church is supposed to be a space where love can be real, where love can lift people up, where love can support people, where love can allow people to expand their understanding of what it means to be a good person and to grow. And the church doesn't always do that, especially when the church finds itself wrapped around this idea of love looking a certain way. Very often, if it doesn't fit the idea of if love doesn't fit this idea of what we're comfortable with, we try to stifle it down. We try to push it away. But the type of love that Jesus brought to the world, he said it himself, it's the type of love that will topple nations, the type of love that will upend, society so that the rich go away without anything and the poor go away filled. The type of love that Jesus brought to the world was intended to bring justice and equity to the world. And so that love isn't necessarily always something that we're going to feel or see on Love Actually when we watch that every single year for Christmas. Honestly, personally, I believe Die Hard's a Christmas movie, and I always watch that after Love Actually. But it just shows love looks different for different people, and that's okay, as long as we're willing to allow that love to transform us into good people who can change the world in a positive way. I personally feel like that is, we don't get that enough. We don't get that enough in the world. I look forward to being able to introduce this congregation to the Reverend Mark Mendez, who will be joining us next month as we kind of swap pulpits. I'll be going to Essex and he'll be coming here. But, that was the first congregation where I worked as a minister. And they, in a lot of ways, are the ones that taught me to get in front of a congregation and be like, you don't need notes. I'll say this for everybody on the stream as well, but the way he put it is, you're like me, Devin, you're great at BS. You don't need notes, just go with the flow. And, that sticks with me because it allowed me to do something that I previously didn't think that I was capable of doing. I started off my sermons at Union Theological School, Seminary, writing them out. I was perfectly happy with them because everybody always told me how amazing they were, how well thought and well written, and why would I change that? Until I came to a congregation where everybody just got up and said whatever they were thinking, and it was wonderful, and I was like, I feel totally outclassed. It takes getting to know other people. It takes getting to see other perspectives of love to really broaden your horizons and to really understand what you are capable of doing in the world as a child who is loved by God. When I think about the people who struggle to find those spaces, people who right now are struggling in the cold, exposed and unable to find food or unable to find clothes that are warm, especially as it gets wet. I mean, it's like, why? Normally we have snow, but right now we have this rainy, freezy stuff. When I think about people in Gaza who are struggling, who are getting packed into a smaller and smaller area as their city is being bombed and as the death toll has raised to over 20,000 people. When I think about what happened to the people of Israel who were attacked and the families that were killed there, when I think about the fact that nobody remembers Ukraine or Yemen or or Ethiopia. Oh, excuse me. There's one that I missed there. What was that? Or South, really? Yeah. Or South Africa. See, there are things that are happening in the world where people could use love, and we're just not even aware. But somebody is aware. Somebody has that perspective of love that can help us grow into a better understanding of what God's love looks like. That is special. That's what church is supposed to be about. That's what we're supposed to be doing as Christians, at least I feel. And so it's important for us to recognize that the love that Jesus gave to the world didn't just get injected by God through a straw to Mary and Joseph and the Jesus family. It didn't just come from on high. It was already present in the world through the people who were interacting with Jesus, who were following Jesus, who were supporting Jesus. His family was there when he was on the cross. It wasn't just God who sacrificed his son. Jesus' family sacrificed their brother, sacrificed their child, because they understood how tough love can be at times, but how love can also change the world. That is something to celebrate. It's not always something to feel good about, but it is something to celebrate because that love exists within each and every one of us. We have the power to change the world. We have the power to light a candle in the dark places that this world casts shadows upon. No matter how dark things get, Jesus shows us that there is a light to be flicked on and illuminate this world with something good. Amen. Oh, yeah. You know how I was saying, that insurance commercial? That didn't exist. It's such a cliche that I figured that everybody would be like, oh yeah, I remember that commercial.